area is populated with a lot of immigrants from the West Indies, mainly Jamaicans, and others from East Africa, mainly Somalis. Today I'll be discussing every generation of gangs that has sprouted from this area and their influence on the city.
Right about now, we're inside Rexdale. You know that this is where I reside. This is the project I live in, and this is Victoria Place, you know? I've lived here for 7 years since I was 12 years old.
Jamestown, Rexdale, just Canada, guys.
You know what I'm saying? It's not good. So what happened at tonight? Put it this way. Put it this way. If you're around here with the camera, just like borrow your camera. Borrow your camera.
Now, Mother Nations states and newborn Crips are believed to be among the first crews in Rexdale to claim allegiance to the Crips gang in the early 90s. See, Rexdale is broken up into 4 different hoods: Jamestown, Old Block, Stovetop, and Mount Olive. All 4 hoods were claimed Crips, all flagged the same color and were from the same neighborhood. They were unified. However, this would shortly change. On the 29th of August 2000, at about 8 p.m., police responded to a 911 call at 1817 Martin Grove Road. The victim was discovered outside a townhouse residence, suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was a Mount Olive Crip known as Streets, transported to a hospital where he died shortly after arrival. The blame was on the Jamestown Crips. Now, the other hoods in Rexdale simply couldn't sit on the fence and had to pick a side between the Jamestown Crips and Mount Olive Crips. They sided with Jamestown, and ever since, Mount Olive has been warring every other Crip set in Rexdale. Now, during this period, Rexdale was also full of another Crip neighborhood in the city known as Driftwood. This was due to the OG, mainly Jamaicans, having family ties in both Rexdale and Driftwood. Now, believe it or not, but a Southside blood known as Smokey was a top member of the Driftwood Crip. Now, Smokey would rob a man with a chain. However, the man he robbed had a brother who would get retribution for him. On the 26th of October 2002, Jeremiah Valentine and his boyhood friend Smokey wanted to look their best for a party that night. The neighborhood was abuzz. Everyone in Driftwood near James Street and Finch Ave West were talking about a sports-themed event that evening called Jersey Jam. But because Smokey had enemies now, he asked Valentine, known as Too Short, what gun he should bring. "I'm rolling with my 9-0, Valentine replied. Inside the party, Valentine recognized at least 5 others from the Driftwood area, although Jersey Jam was a Rexdale party promoted by people from the Jamestown neighborhood. Valentine recognized some Jamestown Crips members in the washroom. He rejoined his group. Now heading up the staircase, Valentine followed and suddenly noticed a lot of black guys wearing hoodies but with no girls. Then he heard gunshots. Fled down the stairs, pushing those climbing up back down. Valentine couldn't see where the shots were coming from. He saw another different guy with his gun to and pulled out his 9mm. They both stopped behind the speaker. Police then responded to the shooting at 19 Sable Street. The victim was discovered inside the La Casa de Hall banquet premises, suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was none other than Smokey, real name Kevin Davis, who was then transported to a hospital where he died shortly after arrival. This was the first body between Driftwood and Rexdale, but it didn't trigger a war between the two hoods, and they still remained cool. Now, in 2006, police carried out a raid that would change Rexdale forever. May 2006, the gun violence was at the highest the city has ever seen, and the Jamestown Crips were at the heart of it. Police put together Project XXX. About 600 police officers from several forces arrested 78 people after carrying out dozens of raids with military precision. The pre-drawn raids on up to 6 resulted in 78 people being charged with offences ranging from attempted murder to drug and firearm trafficking to membership in a criminal gang. The operation was among several recent crackdowns aimed at dismantling the Toronto street gang. This one focused on an organisation known as the Jamestown Crip, which operates throughout the GTA. Police also seized 20 firearms, including an AK-47 assault rifle and 2 MAC-10 automatic machine pistols, several $100,000 in cash, 4 vehicles, and 15 kilograms of cocaine were also seized, which is at a street value of over $2 million. The police had well and truly slashed into the funding and firepower of the gang. Remember, police were monitoring Jamestown Crip members and intercepting their phone calls to listen to. They heard a Jamestown Crip known as Twinkie, also known as KT, saying, "I'm at the heart of the town, and when KT is down for you, your name is good in the hood." Based off this, they took Twinkie as the leader of Jamestown, or at the very least an influential higher up. Twinkie was no stranger to the law. He had first-degree murder against him charges dropped in the Toronto court in 2003 in the fatal shooting of Amar Joseph Green Eye Young after a witness refused to testify. The police mentioned a certain DVD known as the Rap Sheet DVD several times.
yeah.
This was filmed in 2004 to 2005, and it was a lot of self-incriminating footage from Rexdale. Guns were shown, and it's what caught the attention of the police in the first place. Now, in 2006 to 2007, a Driftwood Crip set known as YBK, which stood for Young Buck Killers, had a few members that would go to Father Henry Carr, which was a Catholic secondary school based in Rexdale. Bulldog was one of these guys. Those of you watching probably already know who he is, but if not, he's the older brother of Presser. Now, younger Rexdale sets such as Little Gangster Crips would rob the YDK members, and this would ignite a beef. The older Rexdale sets such as Doomtown Crips would not get involved. Now, what followed was back and forth sliding between Young Buck Killers and Little Gangster Crips. This is when the olders in Doomtown and Driftwood would also get involved. Now, on the 16th of September 2008, at about 5:12 p.m., police responded to a shooting at 4400 James Street. The victim was discovered outside an apartment building, suffering from gunshot wounds. Despite life-saving efforts by emergency personnel, the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim was identified as young Buck member Yoshi, real name William Apaya. This would be the murder that would escalate this feud into a bloody war between two hoods that were once cool, into a war that has lasted almost 2 decades. Now, Rexdale members weren't done with the sliding. Little Gangster Crips and Doomtown Crips got into a car and carried out a drive-by shooting on the 22nd of September 2008 on Driftwood Court near Jane and Vince. A Doomtown member sprayed bullets into a crowd of strangers, killing a father of 6 known as Darnell Grant. Darnell was also an innocent man who just caught in between senseless gang violence. Now, Chicken, real name Corey Smelly, 23, got an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 18 years. His co-accused, Jermaine Jagger, 21, was convicted of first-degree murder and received a life sentence with no parole for 25 years. Now, on the 6th of June 2009, Jamestown Crip Sizzlack, also known as LV, and Fat Kid were at an all-night house party in an historic Chinguzi Road farmhouse known as the Ranch. There were more than 100 people at the party, and a security guard at the door tasked with the role of searching everyone for weapons before they got in. Now, at 5:50 a.m., Sizzlack had a dispute with a group of individuals in the kitchen. Things escalated, and gunshots were fired, causing the partygoers to flee. Police arrived. They found 40-year-old T-Bone, real name Terrence Hughes, dead, and 29-year-old Gareth Palmer dead on the driveway leading to the front door of the building. Now, Fat Kid, real name Justin Bellinger, was also suffering from gunshot wounds. He was shot in the chin and was actually found by paramedics on their way to the scene. They treated him at the hospital before police arrested him, charged him with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Sizzler got away but was arrested later that month and hit with the same charges. Now, during the interview, Fat Kid had with the police. He spoke too much. He admitted him and Sizzler were present in the kitchen where the shooting took place. DNA evidence established 1. Sizzlack, real name Mustafa Omar, had been in the kitchen. His DNA was found on a baseball cap that was found at the scene and belonged to him. The hat was splattered with blood from Palmer. And number 2, that both Palmer and Bellinger were shot while in the kitchen. The evidence wasn't in the favor of Sizzlack and Fat Kid, but everything changed when 2 eyewitnesses testified. Vernal Davidson, the security guard who knew Terrence Hughes, and the other eyewitness was a man known as Fremantle, who was a stranger to all parties involved. Fremantle arrived at the gathering with a friend by the name Justin, not to be mistaken with Fat Kid, who was also called Justin. In Fremantle's presence, Justin spoke to Terrence Hughes soon after their arrival. Hughes told Justin that he'd seen a guy at a party who was wearing a really nice chain. He was speaking about Sizzler. Hughes then said he would get the chain by the end of the evening. Later that night, Fremantle and Justin returned to the kitchen. Fremantle saw Hughes approach Sizzler and grab for the necklace. Then Fat Kid stepped out from behind Sizzler while withdrawing a black semi-automatic handgun that resembled the Glock later found at the scene. The accused, Fat Kid, is a light-skinned black male, himself in a police statement as biracial. Mr. Fremantle said he saw the young man point the gun at Mr. Hughes' stomach and fire. The shooting caused a mass exodus of patrons. Mr. Fremantle was shoved into another room but heard numerous other shots. His friend Justin was shot in the leg. He and Justin escaped through an upstairs window. However, neither Mr. Davidson nor Mr. Fremantle was able to identify anyone by name as being the shooter. Thanks to this, both Fat Kid and Sizzler were never convicted of second-degree murder. However, Fat Kid pled guilty to manslaughter, while Sizzler pled guilty to aggravated assault and sentenced to 2 years. Now, there's been rumors surrounding Sizzler's name about being a rat, but there's no court document showing any of that. If anything, Fat Kid is the one who spoke too much.
Gucci man caught a body. I beat who?
In 2009, after Twinkie got out of prison, he relocated to the Dominican Republic where he lived lavishly in 5-star. He was later arrested by the DNCD, which stood for Dominican Republic National Control Agency. They seized 72 kilograms of cocaine in the back of his pickup truck that was going to be trafficked into Toronto, as well as $49,000 in cash, 32 cell phones, and a timepiece valued at $200K. You can take Twinkie out of Jamestown, but you can't take the Jamestown out of Twinkie. Now, after spending 2 years in the Caribbean jail, Twinkie was acquitted, and in April 2012, he was deported back to Canada. Convicted of trafficking, his two accused were sentenced to 10 years in jail and each fined $200,000, according to a news agency in the Dominican Republic.
Doomstone is basically, it's a burial ground. It's a close word to tombstone. This is a burial ground, and if you don't come here and join the gang, if you don't with what they're with, you're doomed. That means you're dead, man. So it's either you're with it or you're against it. For you to be in here, you have to be a gangster. I said that last shooting around there, called the last shooting room behind there. So in this, if you're not a gangster around here, you don't fit in.
Now, Friendship was a talented rapper from Rexdale. As a Doomstown Crip, he had a bit of a problem. His baby mama lived in Driftwood, and despite the intense beef he had with that neighborhood, he couldn't really tell him not to visit him all the time. This would, however, lead to his downfall. On the 12th of September 2010, at about 10:09 p.m., police responded to a shooting in the area of 4359 J Street. The victim was discovered outside a townhouse complex, suffering from gunshot wounds. Despite life-saving efforts by emergency personnel, the victim was pronounced dead on the scene. The victim was none other than Friendship, real name Jerome Leigh Ellington.
Was running in them fields back when we was 8. Last year was in 08. That's when this shit would change. I'm talking Christian Center, ball runs by Driftwood Center. I'm talking right across the street where we left Friendship hit up. Let me go grab my pole.
And on the 29th of May 2011, at about 11:09 p.m., police responded to a shooting at 1801 Martin Grove Road. 15-year-old G Tix, real name Andrew Navy, was discovered on the sidewalk suffering from gunshot wounds. He was transported to a hospital where he died shortly after arrival. This was a joint hit by Mount Olive and Young Buck Killers. G Tix was a loved member from Stovetop, and a tribute track was made in his honor.
Still missing you, G. I'm screaming rest in peace. Nothing was the same when you left us in the streets. Nothing is the same. I feel like crying on this beat. I'm still missing you, G. I'm screaming rest in peace. I'm still missing you, G. I'm screaming rest in peace.
On the 15th of October 2011, at about 1:58 a.m., police responded to a shooting at 32 Tombamori Drive. Driftwood member L.O. was discovered inside a residence, suffering from gunshot wounds. Despite life-saving efforts by emergency personnel, L.O., real name Christopher Rookwood, was pronounced dead at the scene. L.O. was a loved member and the reason why Driftwood Crip started going by 3L. Each L stood for Long Live L.O. They would throw up threes while their ops would drop the threes as disrespect. west, particularly the housing complexes on Driftwood Ave, Driftwood Court, and Gosford Boulevard. Now, KG was at a house party on Brandon Gate Drive when he was shot in the head by Rexdale members. Officers were called to a townhouse complex after shots rang out shortly after 2 a.m. KG, real name Dennis Alexander, died of his injuries in hospital. For KG, Driftwood Crips attempted to slide back, but things didn't go exactly to plan. On the 17th of February 2013, at about 10:50 p.m., police responded to a shooting at 123 Jamestown Crescent. Jarvis Monteque was discovered on a pathway suffering from gunshot wounds. Despite life-saving efforts by emergency personnel, the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Jarvis was a civilian. In 2011, IDS was created, which is a set in Jamestown which stood for In the Streets. Members included Payback, Young Dubs, Sizzlack, etc. Now in 2011 to 2014, Driftwood Crip Wasi was locked up and having a hard time behind bars. He would be getting a life out by Rexdale members. All this built up resentment. He would let go once
one
he
of the
was
biggest
out.
jails in Toronto.
Wasi employees for direction.
Now on the 30th of March 2015, Wasi would go to Jamestown Crescent where he would spot a 45-year-old Donald Beckles smoking a cigarette outside his house before shooting him. Donald was later discovered outside his residence, suffering from gunshot wounds. He was transported to a hospital where he died shortly after arrival. Bear in mind, Donald was a deaf barber. Now this happens a lot in Toronto street politics. Gang members take it out on anyone, mainly for living in the neighborhood they have war with. Sometimes in hopes someone they beef is related or close to them. Other times they do it for their own sick reasons. Now I won't say this is a regular occurrence, but this isn't exactly rare. Now on the 31st of May 2014, Sizzlack and other IDS members went to Mount Olive and let it rain on them.
It's an all too familiar scene in Rexdale in Toronto's North End. A mass of police cars, residents peering out from behind their closed doors, and paramedics tending to the wounded. Police say 4 gunmen drove up to the housing complex and opened fire, wounding 3.
It's definitely brazen, and it is alarming.
But it's what happened next that left even police stunned. The alleged shooters followed their targets to the hospital and once again opened fire, wounding a 4th before escaping.
Now OVO Fest is Drake's annual festival and has brought the biggest names in hip-hop to Toronto, boosting its homegrown culture to a wider audience in the process. On the 4th of August 2015, OVO Fest was being held at Music Nightclub. Unfortunately,
Big
an event that
event
was supposed
in
to shine to
Toronto.
the city went left.
Was
Now at about 3:20 a.m., police responded to a shooting at 15 Saskatchewan Road. IDS member Slugger, real name Duvel Hibber, was discovered outside Music Nightclub, suffering from gunshot wounds. Despite life-saving efforts by emergency personnel, the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. This was the work of the Driftwood Crips.
Slugger got hit up in the party, did a dance. That nigga now he gone past my blood. The same nigga that probably hit us hard as this that dope.
Now in April 2016, Sizzlack released Realest in the 6, which has amassed almost 2 million views and still influences hip-hop till this day. Throughout the track, Sizzlack and his homies are dropping the freeze to diss Driftwood 3 Crips. He even gets a shopkeeper to drop the freeze. A few years later, Driftwood's Meat Gang would get the same shopkeeper to throw up the freeze. Another important part of the Realest in the 6 music video is the shot of the New Hope King restaurant. This particular restaurant is referenced by Kendrick in his recent rap battle with Drake.
New Hope King.
Now, Drake was robbed by Sizzlack, so
Famous
Kendrick
place.
took
I've eaten there
Drake's
before.
reply track to Kendrick's
New Hope
rap
King is
family
good
back
stuff.
shows a clip of the same restaurant.
Talk about me and my family, Crody. Someone go bleed in your family, Crody. How be a new hog king eating fried rice with a dip sauce and a blammy, Crody?
Now on the 23rd of April 2016, police responded to shots fired at a townhouse complex located at 74.
Love Kendrick in Toronto. I don't know. I don't know.
When the police arrived, they found 4 victims suffering gunshot wounds. They were all rushed to hospital. However, one man was later pronounced dead.
Damn.
That man was Sizzlack. Real name was Mustafa Homer. Sizzlack was not killed by his ops. Fat Kid would have some serious dislike for Sizzlack, going as far as being the one to tarnish his name by spreading rumors that he ratted, manipulating some Rexdale members around him. This ultimately is what led to Sizzla's demise. Now, what I'm about to tell you may come as a shock to some of you, but Fat Kid grew up with Jay Noble and his family as kids. Fat Kid even pictured here of a Mount Olive OG. See, Jay Noble was the biggest name to come out of Mount Olive. Jay Noble's brother, Ricky, was also Fat Kid's day one. On the 28th of July 2013, Ricky was murdered. Now, here is some interesting court documents of Ricky's family having their phone tapped. Ricky Dunkley's mother, Miss Dunkley, was caught saying she could kill those who were involved and do time for my kid. Specifically states,
But that's hurting.
the intercepted calls also
kill
tells
their
how
kid.
Jay Noble's real name,
Crazy.
Jermaine Dunkley, disagreed with his mother about Sizzler being involved. Now, Ricky's killer was none other than a man known as Rico Gale. Rico was a blood from Southside Jane, Lane to be exact, Jamaica shortly after the murder, and has never been found since.
Fled the
Mount
country.
Olive so
A lot of people do
the
that.
murder of a 15-year-old boy known as Skinny Tony from connections and not Lane. So ultimately, they killed him for no reason, as he had no ties to Rico. This is what ultimately brought connections into joining forces with Lane and Warren Mount Olive. Doovie, who you may know, was a close friend of Skinny Tony. Now, Presser was locked up and having a tough time in jail. He was beaten up by Rexdale and Dixon Blood. Rumors that they even broke his arm. For this, Driftwood member slid. On the 15th of May 2016, police attended a hospital to investigate a shooting which had occurred earlier in the area of John Garland Boulevard and Jamestown Crescent. The victim had been an occupant of a vehicle suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was known as Candice Bob. She was transported to hospital where she shortly died after arrival. She was pregnant at the time of her death, and her baby was born prematurely at hospital. Now, YG was originally from Rexdale, Jamestown to be exact, where he lived with his mother. He would change schools from Driftwood to Rexdale and back. His mother was barely home due to work, so he would spend his time at his grandma's house in Maze by Jane and Shepherd. Eventually, he would end up moving in with his aunt, who lived in Shoreham Court, Driftwood. YG grew up with Presser, and they were close friends, so it shouldn't be a surprise to you that he ended up becoming a young buck killer, just like Presser. After hearing what happened to Presser behind bars, YG felt do something. Now, on the 1st of June 2016, YG, along with Go Get 'em Gang member Jason, for more context about Go Get 'em Gang, go watch my detailed video I did on them. Now, CCTV footage shows YG and Jason, both armed, walking through a parking lot and approaching a man on his bicycle. YG then brandishes his gun and fires at him at point blank range. Him and Jason then flee the scene. The victim was an innocent known as Nathan Lee. He was rushed to hospital where he recovered despite the bullet's piece in his lungs. However, it left him paralyzed and in a wheelchair. A year after the incident, police came up with two suspects, YG, real name Shamari White, and Jason, real name Ibrahim Abdi Kareem. Jason was caught quickly while YG went on the run. He crossed the border and was enjoying himself in America. On the 26th of April 2018, YG was arrested in Ohio and extradited back to Toronto. Presser would drop $50,000 for his lawyer, known as Anthony Robbins, who was notorious for helping his clients beat their case. YG would later defeat the case. It helped that Rexdale gang members convinced the victim to say he didn't do it, so YG could be free for them to catch him in the streets instead. On the 4th of July 2016, officers were called to the area of Venture Lane and Duckerton Crescent regarding multiple gunshots being heard. IDS member Payback was found suffering from gunshot wounds while sitting in a vehicle parked at the front entrance of a townhouse complex on the south side of Duckerton Crescent. Payback was rushed to hospital where he later died. Witnesses reported seeing a large black SUV vehicle drive away from the area. It was last seen traveling eastbound, police said. Payback was a talented rapper and even had a song with Jadakiss. On the 19th of November 2016, at about 11:50 a.m., police responded to a shooting at 11 Shoreham Court. The victim was Little L.O. and he was suffering from gunshot wounds. Little L.O. was transported to hospital where he died shortly after arrival. Wascan members like YS, Talent Twins, and Burner Bands witnessed this happen. IDS member Young Doug, who was the older brother of Young Lava, was tragically shot dead in the driveway of a Garden Gate Circle townhouse at around 10:30 p.m. on the 11th of May 2000. He went by several aliases, but his real name has not been released, and the police said his family did not want it released, so I respect the family's wishes. Now, Robin Banks was an extremely talented rapper from Driftwood. He would make the label stood for Uptown Movement to showcase the talent of his hood. He had the music game on lock and would honestly drop so many bangers. Robin not only influenced his city, but influenced the UK's wave sound. Now, Robin Banks was blowing up, his records would do millions of views, and his hit song Priceless gained the attention of Meek Mill. Now, there's rumours that Meek Mill was close to signing Robin Banks. On the 3rd of April 2017, Robin was out celebrating in the Cameo Lounge near Steeles Avenue and Western Road in Woodbridge. Rumour was it he was celebrating a deal he was going to sign to the Dream Chasers. The club was packed with about 100 people. 2 IDS members got the drop and spotted Robin Banks. Now, one gunman approached Robin before shooting him 14 times. He was hit 9 times in the leg, 4 hit his torso, and the final bullet went through his neck, severing his spinal cord. But IDS members fled the scene in a Honda, but were shortly stopped for speeding by police. Police then searched the car and found weapons. They were both arrested. Nicholas Roden left, and Rashawn Anderson Wright were interviewed by police. Now, a forensic team notified the police that the weapons were fake, so the police had no choice but to release them. Now, the shooting didn't kill Robin Banks, but it left him paralyzed from the neck down. Now, just 2 days after they released both men, police obtained CCTV footage that showed both men shooting Robin Banks, as well as running a red light that got them stopped in the first place. Both men were later rearrested despite one going on the run. Robin Banks was issued a subpoena and was asked on the stand if the men charged were the shooters. He replied he didn't know. This is a stark contrast to what the paralyzed kid that YG hit up said, who helped YG's case. Now, Nicholas Roden was sentenced to 25 to life, while Rashawn Anderson was sentenced to 16 years in prison, respectively, for attempted murder of Robin Banks. Here is a Rexdale telling Robin to do the right thing and free their guys.
Yo, we need Robin to free the man them. Real shit. Free the dogs them. Every first person you know the man will do the right thing. Always. Like we didn't do the right thing, you know what I'm saying? Free the man them, real talk.
These niggas screaming out now they end up in a wheelchair like Robin Banks.
Now, Haley was a talented IDS 40 holding a Double XL magazine where Haley and 40 are pictured on the cover. On the 25th of May 2017, multiple shots were fired at Rattlesnake Road and Desert Sand Drive at about 10:30 p.m. When police arrived, they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds. That man was none other than Haley, real name Sean Grant. He was rushed to the local trauma center where he later died due to his injuries. Here is a picture of IDS members Haley and Payback. It's pretty unfortunate the sheer number of talent that is lost to the streets. Muller, who was a rapper from Rexdale, spoke about how Payback and Illy inspired him to rap when he was a younger.
You start getting the motivation to start rapping? My OGs, like I always used to go to Allen Bank Community Center, and they would just be nice, you know, like Payback and Illy, them, you know.
Now, despite Illy's Payback being dissed by their ops, none of their deaths had anything to do with them. Now, on the 3rd of February 2018, the father of Twinkie, Oliver Willis Sr., had passed away due to natural causes at the age of 73. Twinkie was mourning. As you can imagine, losing a father isn't easy. The funeral was held on the 17th of February 2018. Literally 2 days after the funeral, Rexdale legend Twinkie was fatally gunned down in a drive-by shooting just before 2:45 p.m. in the area of Wadham Court, Cumberland Drive. Now, on the 12th of May 2018, Rexdale Crip PK was at a home listed as an Airbnb that was known for hosting parties. At about 3:30 a.m., neighbors heard gunshots and rang the police. When officers arrived in the area, 26-year-old Toronto resident PK, real name Kevin Premper, was found dead at the scene. Now, PK's murder was the work of Rexdale.
And I gotta smoke PK cause you know it comes my nerve.
On the 29th of October 2018, Rexdale Crip LG was attending the wedding of Go Get 'em gang member Jason, present were other Go Get 'em gang members like Top 5 and Flipper. The wedding was held in Ottawa. LG returned from the wedding and headed to a party.